From the campus of the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School, this is Marketing Matters on Business Radio.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Marketing Matters here on Business Radio, Sirius XM 132. I'm Barbara Kahn, the Patty and J.H. Baker Professor of Marketing, and I'm joined by my co-host, Americus Reed, the Whitney M. Young Jr. Professor of Marketing and the Brand Identity Theorist. And given that today we're in the studio recording our show the day after the election, we decided to focus our show on political marketing and bring in some experts who can help us parse some of that information. So we're going to focus not on the politics of it, but really more on the marketing aspects.
Business side, yep.
And in order to do that, we are delighted to have Steve Kaplan, who's an adjunct instructor at USC's Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. And Steve is also the founder of Message, which is a strategic communications and marketing firm based in L.A.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's certainly an interesting day to be having this conversation after an election, as we just had, and perhaps as much as $18 billion being spent on advertising. So I know we'll get into that. My career and my journey took me from both Hollywood and all the way back to Philadelphia at some point, where I think you guys are, where I worked for former Mayor Ed Rendell. A little shout out to Ed. A little shout out to Governor Rendell.
Yep.
And I attended and also did graduate work at the University of Pennsylvania.
Nice.
I had the wonderful opportunity to work at the agency GMMB. And GMMB was the agency of record for the Obama campaign in 2008 and 2012. As a partner, I ran the West Coast office, but had a front row seat to the work that was done by my partners at the firm, and was able to watch. And we all saw the impact of that campaign from a marketing sense. And as I mentioned, funny enough, back in 2008, that campaign won the Titanium or Gold Lion at the Cannes Advertising Awards, the Lions. So it was a groundbreaking campaign from a marketing side, and it's part of what's really made me interested in marketing and advertising from the political side, as a former political campaign manager, but now as an instructor and practitioner. So I'm thankful to be here, and I appreciate the time. I think that their message early on was that this is more of the same. And Barbara, you touched on that, and both of you have touched on it, that this is a continuation of the Biden administration. And that label was attached to Vice President Harris. Interestingly, at high-profile moments during the race, as is his wont, former President-elect Trump didn't exactly stay on message.
No.
The first debate was a great example of that. Their first meeting was an opportunity for him to consistently deliver that message. And he did not, frankly, and that's just how it is. He went off message, and she goaded him a little bit and got him away from that core message. The fact that it was still able to be as resoundingly effective as it is, we will have to determine, was that advertising? Is it just him? Is it personality? Is it psychology? I think there are a lot of big questions to answer. I do think that there was an assumption on the part of the campaign that the reproductive health and choice would overwhelm any other issue. And I can give you a really interesting side bit on that. Many young voters in the last year plus have been concerned about the conflict in Gaza, and there's been episodes on campuses around the country.
Absolutely.
But when you look at the data,
Yes, we know.
When you look at the data across the country and among young people, and the Harvard Youth Poll showed this, it was very low on the areas of concern for voters. What was at the top of the list? The cost of housing, the cost of food, the cost of rent, everything else. So my answer about whether the messengers worked with those audiences, perhaps the message of women's health and empowerment didn't trump, pardon the pun, the real core issues of the economy and jobs and the cost of living. And really, I think that was the message that ended up winning this election. So was Beyonce's message about the cost of living? I don't think it was.
No,
it was.
Right.
It can't be, because they're billionaires. Elon Musk can get to it, and he's a billionaire, and people don't seem to mind. Again, I think these are conversations. Perhaps the four of us can have a therapist join us, and we can dig into what's happening psychologically, or someone from the psychology department, because there are a lot of deeper insights.
Is there any data or information that says that the the channel was right for Vice President Harris to be on Snapchat. The people she wanted to reach were there. But the message she sent there somehow did not, because it's two different problems, right? One problem is that they're not there and your message goes out into the void. The other problem is they're there.
You don't have the right message.
Exactly. It's to Barbara's point. You don't have the right message. Do we have any sense of how this played out? Because I would say, to your point, Steve, I would say that, wow, that's a pretty smart idea, Snapchat. But to Barbara's point, zero ROI, it looks like.
Yeah, as a marketer, my gut when it was running was that it was very smart. The cost of Snap comparatively to Google and Meta were quite low. The targeting and the ability to hyper target was quite high. Whether it's a platform that's as popular as the others, that's for someone else, a media analyst perhaps. Mm-hmm. But all things would have been or should have been lined up for a certain amount of success to convert. But as you all know, it's not just message, it's conversion and it's data capture and all the other things. And from a technical standpoint, all I can say is this, as an analyst and someone that's been in those rooms, they didn't do anything wrong technically, but the message for any number of reasons didn't connect in a way that they had expected. And I think that's something that a lot of people on the Democratic side are going to have to really do some soul searching on as they figure this out.
Let me throw this out there.
I will say from a funnel standpoint, I tried to explain this to my political advertising. I didn't try to. We talked about it, that this looks very much like a traditional marketing funnel.
Yep.
And if you were to look at the traditional marketing funnel along with the purchase decision, which in this case is getting out to vote, by the fundamentals, Kamala Harris's campaign was far more prepared to take people through that journey, including in the conversion stage. By the way the advertising was spent, by their targeting, by their strategies, but it didn't work. So what does that say about the funnel?
Exactly.
Either for politics or from brands.
Correct.
And I'm really curious what this means more globally, and perhaps you guys will tackle that some other time.
I mean, she might just throw this out quickly because we're running out of time here. She might have got stuck on the trial part for the funnel. Awareness, consideration, trial. Well, I don't really know who she is, or I'm not sure of the policies and so on, whatever. And that might have been one of those issues. You just got stuck in the funnel.
Yes, that's a big problem.
Understandable, I suppose. Vice presidents aren't widely known, but she has been in the public eye for quite a long time. So the awareness was there, but the engagement wasn't. And then the conversion fell a little bit flat on election day, clearly. But, much to consider in this. And I just was, this, again, I want to underline, I guess, that the notion of this incredible amount of spending, which is even more than Australia, France, Italy will spend in consumer marketing in a single year. $18 billion will have been spent. And we're going to have to look after this is all done about how effective that was. And early indications are $18 billion didn't go very far.